It's a great morning here, starting to tailgate nice and early with the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4xe plug-in hybrid. We got the power box, which gives us 30 amps of power, which powers my electric Weber grill like a dream. This might be one of the most versatile vehicles I've ever tested. Let's get into it. Got the electric Weber grill plugged in here, grilling up these dogs, got some nice lines on them. They're sweating. These puppies are sweating as we plug it into the power box. Like I said, 30 amps of power, but I'm powering my e-bike here, charging it up so you can take your bikes with you, take your grills with you, and you're set out on the trail. My belly's a little too full after eating all the hot dogs. Needless to say, the girls weren't really ready for hot dogs at 9 a.m. But let's get into the refreshed Wrangler here. Now they've changed the grille for this 2024 refresh. They've made it shorter, and they've also given air spaces in between the typical 7 vertical slats there. We also have a trail camera here on the front, and the biggest addition here for 2024 with these metal bumpers is the option of this worn winch that's built in from the factory. I think that's the first time ever for Jeep to have it integrated into the front from the factory, up to 8,000 pounds. I towed my buddy's Land Cruiser. Well, not really towed it, but I pulled him just a little bit to show the capabilities of this worn winch. Stay tuned for the off-road driving impressions, which we'll get into after this walk around. All right, coming to the side, this is the Rubicon 4xe. You guys already figured it out that it is a plug-in hybrid. It's actually the best-selling plug-in hybrid in the entire United States. Pretty crazy. It's not the RAV4 Prime or anything like that. It's this vehicle right here. This is where you plug it in. It charges for me about 4.5 hours with my simple level 2 at home. It also comes with a level 1 charger, which is probably going to take 3 times that amount. So hopefully you have a level 2 if you're planning on getting this vehicle. We also have tons of new wheels for 2024. These are the 17-inch wheels, and I believe these are 35-inch tires on this Rubicon X model. What do you guys think about this paint color, this blue? It's definitely striking. We also have metal piece right here, a little rock slider action. As we come around to the back, tire on the back here, and I like this little piece for the 4xe. This is a small little accent color to let you know that you have a plug-in hybrid here. 4xe on the back. I'm gonna lift this up. Well, I say lift this up because it's a 2-action, because this swings out, this lifts up. We have some cargo space back here if you want to come in closer. This is actually going to be a bag for your windows in the back to put into, as well as the top, I believe. But we'll show you what the top does here in a little bit, which is pretty cool for 2024. Now underneath the carpet here is your power box, which I showed grilling earlier and powering the e-bike, as well as your level 1 charger fits in this nicely under the floor. Just keep in mind, if you don't tuck it just right, you won't be able to close this piece. But remember, the window always goes first, and hopefully it's tucked. No, not really. I kind of have to hold the floor down unless you have those cables packed just perfectly inside that 4xe zipper bag. So let's go ahead and get in the back seat here. We got the kiddos buckled in. Oh, there goes an iPad. Just keep in mind that if you have booster seats, it's actually pretty hard for older kids to buckle themselves with traditional seat buckles. It's kind of cramped back there. The receivers for the buckles are a little stiff. I'll give you a quick tour back here. Soft touch on the door, nice stitching as well. Hard touch back here, which is great for the kiddos so they can scuff up the back, no big deal. The AC, which is very cold in here, cooling these kiddos down. Not a lot of leg room back here. We have also an additional power plug to plug the kids' devices, but if I go below that, you also have a couple more USBs for additional power. Here are the window controls for the back seats as well. Speakers along the top, so if you take off the doors, you don't lose your speakers. They're built in. This does have the optional Alpine sound system. And I'll go ahead and meet you on the inside of the front seat. Man, it's hot. It's so hot out there, and it's about to get hotter because I'm gonna show you the one-touch sky power open roof feature. It's pretty incredible. You guys saw it. Well, you will see it when we do show you the little off-roading portion of this video. And I'm going to turn down the AC just a little bit. But yeah, the kids can be roasting too, getting that sunburn if they want. But it's like 90 degrees out here in August in Florida. So we are going to fold that back up one touch. I'll let it do the rest. So in here, it is pretty familiar compared to the 392 2023 model that I reviewed not that long ago. But what's standard across the entire lineup is this new Uconnect. I think it's the 5th generation. This is a 12-inch screen. You get it on the base model. You also get on this near 80,000 4xe Rubicon X model. It's awesome. I like having wireless Android Auto here. Cassie uses Apple CarPlay. That's also going to be wireless as well. But the cool thing is, if I need to get to other functions in the vehicle, Jeep keeps these controls up at all times, so it's easy for me to get into the other settings. We don't have a 360 camera in here. It's that I'm aware of. I've only seen a front and rear facing camera, and the quality is actually quite good here. And I just switched to the backup camera. It doesn't take up the full screen, but have had no issues with it. And just getting back into Android Auto, boom, super easy, to the point. I can activate my heated seat and steering wheel from here. I don't have ventilated seats. That would have been appreciated with these beautiful leather seats, but they are heated, which is pointless down here in Florida 99% of the time. We also have a heated steering wheel. I love the traditional knobs here. Volume, tuning, fan control, super simple to use. And there's also this feature right here, which I've turned off since the second I got this vehicle, which is kind of like this max regen braking. I just prefer to use the brake pedal. It's a little bit more simple for me. A couple USBs here. I have my phone. I like this little phone slot that fits right between the cups, which is pretty nifty. Traditional handbrake here in a great position. Here's your 4-wheel drive select. You have front and rear lockers, which I didn't even need to use doing off-road. You also have front sway bar disconnect, which is pretty cool. Here's all your window controls, and let's get to the steering wheel. The steering wheel feels really nice in the hands. It's leather wrapped. The stitching is kind of like that hyper blue accent that we have on the 4xe. You see it on the Rubicon on the seat here. But the stitching, I'll show you a little bit. It's a little ugly, so if you look a little close, it's not very well done, because the stitching out here on the dash, it's actually quite good. So, and then also the stitching on the center console here and the seats is really, really good. We have this little screen here as well, which is going to show you your range. I have 16 miles of EV range. I'll tell you right now, I got 23 miles of EV range on this Rubicon X with these big fat tires. Outside of that, I'm getting about 16 miles to the gallon. Stay to the end, because I'll be able to give you guys like a cost breakdown, like how much money you would be saving on fuel and lots of different situations if you have a plug-in hybrid and using it mostly in EV mode, or as much as possible. All right, I think I've covered enough for the interior. Let's go ahead and saddle up. I love where the shifter is as well. I don't even have to take my arm off the armrest, and that's the same thing with all the knobs in here. It's great. It's super functional, and I'm going to see what this turning radius is like here, because I didn't park in the most natural position, but turning radius in this truck is actually quite good, and that helps in off-roady situations as well if you're doing some rock climbing and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and roll onto the gas here. We're 300. Wait, am I in full? No, I'm in hybrid mode. The gas engine didn't even come on there. So we have a really powerful electric motor, made it to a 2-liter 4-cylinder with 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. And that got us up to 30 miles an hour real quick, just with the electric motor. We're gonna throw around the turn here. No, Jeep's on-road mannerisms are not, you know, world-class, but it actually feels pretty good in the turn. And one of the reasons is for 2024, they've upgraded the rear. They've given a true floating rear end now, which has increased towing capacity. It's also improved off and on-road driving mechanics. So now if you're not used to driving a Jeep, you don't have a lot of visibility. Your windshield is about yay high, and at least these windows are nice and tall so you can see out of the side of them. Cass, what are your initial impressions of the interior here?
Yeah, okay, so I'm not a big fan of the Spartan interior, I would call it. I like the minimalist interior. Yeah. So, but, I mean, if you like it, that's awesome. Yeah. You know, I'm all about the extras. You know, like, ventilated seats. You like the ventilated seats. I like massage seats. I'm all about the extras. What can I get? Yeah.
Well, we have that sliding roof. That's pretty extra.
That is so cool. And also, I mean, it's a Jeep. So, like, if you're a Jeep person, Yeah, this is an awesome Jeep. It looks rugged. It looks cool. I know people think I'm like the coolest person around as a mom, right? Driving around in a Jeep.
Well, yeah, moms eat these vehicles up down here in South Florida. I think like they're like the #1 buy.
It's so cool. Yeah. No, definitely.
Well, when I first met you, you were a Jeep, like your end goal vehicle was a Jeep.
I was a Jeep. I know. I had a Prius at the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
It's a complete
opposite. But now, hey, it's a hybrid, right? This is a hybrid.
This is now your Prius Jeep, essentially.
There you go.
We get great efficiency on electric mode, and like like I showed earlier, I'm just blown away with that power box and the versatility that it brings to this vehicle, especially if you're doing your camping with the Jeep. That's what Jeep lifestyle is about. Taking it away from home, doing things you can't do at home, and you can bring home with you now more than ever for the modern conveniences with that power box and the electric output that this hybrid system provides. So it's pretty amazing. And I just love the features here with these little buttons on the side that driving out to the campsite, I can just press E-save and it's going to keep my battery topped off. And if I have the battery run down, and then I press E-save, it'll start charging the battery before I get to the campsite or before my destination. So
that's really cool.
It is really amazing just how versatile this Jeep is. You could use it as a commuter. One other thing, speaking of commuting, is that for 2024 with this Rubicon X, so we get some fancy things in here like the leather seats with this trim, as well as like power seats. But they've also included acoustic glass on the side windows and underneath the floor carriage. So when we take it up to highway speeds, you're not being punished like you are in a typical Jeep, where it's super loud, you feel everything. This is more sophisticated. It's definitely more luxury-like. And even though I do hear things coming in from the back doors and the roof, it really is dampened by the inclusion of this sound deadening material in the window. So I really appreciate that. But I'm gonna take you guys off-road with the Rubicon X 4xe. Let's hit it. Before we hit the trail with the Rubicon 4xe, I wanted to say thanks to Dan. He's my neighbor. He's just down the street from me. Moved in this neighborhood, and he has 2 Land Cruisers that are kitted out. He takes them on a trip with his family every single year. And yeah, he took me on this cool little trail with the Jeep, and we were able to use the winch a little bit just for demonstration purposes as well. So it was a lot of fun. Special thanks to Dan, and even more special thanks to his son Cove, who got the drone up for us and got some amazing drone shots of the Wrangler Rubicon X 4xe 2024. Thanks again. Make sure to check out their channels, Family Expedition Overland over on Instagram. Give them a follow. They're always doing really cool stuff if you're into Land Cruisers and overlanding. So what do I think about the Wrangler off-road? Well, I don't have crazy elevation here in Florida. The best I can do is sand. And this thing, and just putting it in 4 high automatic, it just like melted through any sort of sand. Now, I wasn't doing anything crazy. It's a press car. I don't want to get myself in any much trouble. I'm not going to throw it into swamp water. That's just stupid. So I just had a blast doing some real basic trails with this thing, and using the winch was a blast as well. And this thing just looks so good with a little bit of splashed up sand and mud on it. It looks so cool. And yes, it hasn't been the easiest to clean since that day because there's just so much dust and dirt on it. But that's what a Jeep should have that on it all the time, in my opinion. And yeah, it was just an absolute blast. Thanks again to Dan and Cove for helping me out, getting me out on the trail with your Land Cruiser, as well as getting some sweet shots. Will you ever save enough fuel with the 4xe to make up the cost difference between an entry-level Wrangler and a 4xe entry-level? Well, if we look at the Wrangler, it starts at $31,000. If you look at the 4xe, it starts around $54,000. So the answer is no. You would never be able to use it on electric mode enough unless you're driving like 100,000 miles a year only on electric mode, which is impossible since there's only about 20 miles of range. I actually broke down the numbers. If you're driving in California and you have expensive energy on the gas end as well as the electricity end, it's essentially the same price to fuel this thing with the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo Wrangler as it is to fuel this thing on the 4xe, assuming you're driving half of your miles on the fully electric. More than likely, you're going to be driving, best case scenario, at least 50% in gas mode. So on average, you're probably going to be around almost every single time, despite how many miles you're driving. The 4xe costs nearly identical to fuel compared to the 2-liter Wrangler. And heck, the V6 isn't that far off either. It only gets about 1 mile per gallon worse. Now, if we look at Florida, the energy prices here are a lot lower, $1 less per gallon. and energy prices are about half from the socket. And so this is where it makes more sense. But even then, it's still not that big of a difference, $200 a year compared to the 2-liter non-electrified version, and maybe 300. It just depends on how many miles you're driving. If you're driving 15,000 miles a year and somehow you're able to drive 50% of those miles on electric, you're still only saving about $400 on fuel prices per year. So getting the Wrangler 4xe, it's not about fuel savings. It's about going to the gas station less and using those electrified features out on the trailer, out at the campsite. On to the buying guide of the Wrangler 4xe for 2024. And check this out. For 2023, the starting price was about $55K with the Willys. Well, guess what? They've added a cheaper Sport S trim for 2024. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Jeep Wrangler is only being sent to carb states as a plug-in hybrid. You would have to special order a non-plug-in hybrid for those areas. And for the areas that are not carb states, like Florida, they have stopped sending 4xEs here unless, to my knowledge, you special order one. So they're not going to be sitting on lots like you're used to seeing. So do some more research on that on your own. I'm not going to get too much into that, but let's get into the buying guide here of the 2024 model. And yes, I tested here the Rubicon X. That's what I had in the press fleet here. And it was very, very expensive. Check this out, nearly $77,000 US. Now the worn winch is cool, but most people are probably not going to use that. So that's $2,000 you can save. I like the all-weather floor mat, so we'll talk more about that. Do you need the one-touch power top? It's definitely amazing. Is it worth $3,000? Probably not. Now you also have this $8,500 Rubicon X package. Gives you a lot of those nice features like the leather seats. But here in Florida, leather is hot as the dickens, especially since there's no ventilation here. Now, I think the best feature to this Rubicon X is actually the sound deadening materials with acoustic features that I mentioned earlier, as well as the steel front bumpers. So it's up to you guys if you need those steel front bumpers and if you need those fancy leather power adjustable heated seats, etc. Yes, the Alpine premium audio system is nice, but it's not that important in my opinion. So let's get back to building off of the Sport S. We're just going to build off the base trim here because it gives you the same powertrain with the 375 horse, the same battery pack, same everything, at least when it comes to the powertrain. We're going to stick with the Hydro Blue because I like that color quite a bit. I like the cloth seats here. They're going to breathe better for me here in Florida. I can still get those rock sliders here that I had equipped on my model for about $1,000. That might be worth it to you guys. You can actually add on the one-touch power top if you want. But hey, I would rather have the non-powered one for about $1,000 so I can just lift it up on my own. And I don't have to worry about spending an arm and leg or worrying if the motor gives out over time. So I'd be going with the Sunrider. So let's go ahead and add that guy. I had this sort of top with the 392 last year. Let's get the all-weather floor mats. You can actually add on that Alpine stereo here on this base grade if you want for about $1,300. Here's the thing. I got to have the blind spot monitor and parking sensor, so I'm going to add that one. But when I add it, it forces me to get the convenience group. So I'm going to have to get my feet wet. If you plan on towing with your Jeep, you're going to need this package as well, the trailer tow. But as for now, I'm going to leave that off. And here's the thing. I don't see the power box as an option at our builder, even on the Sport model. So it looks like it's only for select models within the lineup. I don't know if you'd be able to order this from the dealership to outfit your lesser models. And I don't know if those lesser models have the backwards, or should I say vehicle to load technology baked in that certain models do. Looking at the Sahara trim, I don't see the power box on this one either. And I went through every single trim level ending up on the Rubicon X, and I didn't see anything about the power box there. So you might have to ask your dealer if they can clarify with the power box situation. To me, that's one of the biggest draws, if not the biggest draw, to the refresh 2024 4xe Wrangler. And if you can get it here on the Sport model, bravo, that's the way I would be getting it. And like I said, since I'm not in a carb state, there are no 4xEs 2024s in my area. There is one that happens to be 94 miles from me. That's a 2024 model year. The rest of them are leftovers from 2023. So maybe it means you can get a good deal on a 2023 model. They look nearly identical. The average person won't be able to tell the difference. You can get the base model for around $50,000, which is, I mean, probably a good deal, but no power box available here. And it is not backwards compatible, to my understanding, from 2024 to 2023 and other models of the Wrangler 4xe, that power box. So it's only for 2024 models and possibly only for specific trim levels that I just don't have that clarification on yet. If you made this far in the video, hit the like button. Thank you for watching my quick review on and off-road of the refreshed Rubicon X 4xe Wrangler. It was so much fun. This vehicle is just a grin-inducing toy, absolutely. I'll see you down below. What are your thoughts on this plug-in hybrid, the nation's best plug-in hybrid, the Jeep Wrangler 4xe?